تتذكر تعرف الدكتور يحيى الحامد كان ايوه هو اللي راجعني كان الله الفيلم ده
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. We are team number 1. My name is محمد and my teammate Ibrahim and Khalid Adoudi. Today we will present to you our senior exam project for the first year, which is a motorized curtain for industrial building. This is the outline of our presentation. We'll start with the introduction, then we'll go to the conceptual design and product baseline design and preliminary evaluation of baseline design and conclusion of the work. Let's start with the introduction by giving you some point to get you familiar with our project. As you can see, many curtains these days are operate manually and need human intervention and prevents the light that comes from sun only, not the heat and microwave. So our project is about designing a smart curtain, especially for industrial building, that operate automatically without the need of human intervention and reduce the heat and reflect the microwave that comes from the sun. And has a manual overview option to let the user control the curtain anytime he wants. Our project uses the DC motor to move the curtain. Let's go to the background section. In this section, we'll give some background information about the most two parts of the project, the curtain material and the DC motor. Let's start with the curtain material. The curtains are made from fabric materials. Those fabric materials are different in absorbing the heat and reflecting the microwave that comes from the sun. One of the microwaves that comes from the sun is the ultraviolet wave. The ultraviolet wave cannot be seen by the naked eye because its wavelength is shorter than the visible eye. The ultraviolet wave can be classified into ultraviolet A and B and C. Ultraviolet A and B are responsible for skin aging and skin cancer and damage of the eye if the human body exposed too much of them. Let's go to the heat of absorption of the curtain material. There's a research was made by Lindsay Wood. In this research, she was testing different kinds of fabrics like cotton, polyester, and she found that the cotton absorbs the least heat and the polyester absorbs the most heat. Now let's go to the DC motor. The DC motor is the most common type used in many applications. The important part of the DC motor is the matcher, which is the rotating part. There is other part like the brushes and the field winding. We can control the speed of the DC motor by applying variable voltage to the armature and field winding. Also, we can change the rotation of the DC motor if we change the direction of the current, and I will leave you with my team.
Okay, let's talk about the conceptual design for our project. In conceptual design, we talk about the problem definition and the project objective, the project design specification, the literature review, analyzing alternative solution, measuring baseline design. First, let's talk about the problem definition. Before that, the original problem definition was to develop a motorized curtain that will open during the daytime and close at night time, and also has a manual operation override. So, as you see, it is not clear enough for us, so we want to more define for our problem. So we use some techniques, which is statement, restatement techniques, and we come up with many statements, and then we fully define our problem. As our problem is to develop a smart motorized curtain for industrial buildings such that the curtain will automatically operate without the need of human intervention. Depends on the light, intensity of the light that comes from the sun, and that to provide more comfort and luxury life for the people who work there. And also has a manual operation override, and that has the fabric of the curtain has a reflective material that can reduce the heat that comes from it. Now let's talk about the project objective. It is divided to the higher objective and the lower objective. The higher objective is to reduce the heat and keep the room indoor temperature at a moderate level. and then to protect the chemical used inside the industrial building rooms, because as we know, the medicines should be kept, most of the medicines should be kept in room temperature. Also to use a low power consumption convert. The low power objective is to provide more convenience to the people by operating the curtain automatically, and also to provide ease and flexibility by using a simple interface. Now Muhammad will complete. Sorry, Ibrahim.
Okay, let's now talk about the product design specification. First one, we'll talk about the must and wants that comes from the customer, the project customer. The first must is we must use reflective material that reduce the heat, comes from the outside of the room. Also, the project or the curtain should cover an area that has a length of 1.7 meter and 2 meters in height. Also, the initial power method is by battery, not by AC voltage, and we should use low power consumption. Then we have to add a manual override option to the project, so user can use it as a manual or automatically. We have also two ones. First is the curtain is transparent from inside. Then we can add another wave power, which is the solar energy. The constraints of our project, we have listed the constraints here. The first one is the cost should be not exceed the 3,000 Saudi riyal. Also, the project should be friendly for the environment. Also, we must done the project before 26th of May of 2016. The battery should be changed at least 1 month, at least every 1 month. Then the curtain covers an area that doesn't exceed 5 meters square. And the final thing is that the project should be easy to use for all users. Here also we have made some assumptions for our project. We assume that the project will be helpful in industrial building. Else the project will not. We assume the project will not be easy to move around because the area is somehow is big. Also, we may face some difficulties to let the curtain operate by two modes: automatic and manual switch, or automatic. Another assumption is the project may need to use a microcontroller to control the action of our project. We also assume that most the project parts will be ordered from online markets, since maybe some parts will be not available in the local market. Final assumption is we may face some difficulties to let the motor change its direction to rotate forward and backward. Here, we assume some project risks that may occur. As an example, the electrical hazard may be one of the project risks. So to solve this problem, we advise that to make sure that we put the project in. We unplug the critical parts for the power source before working with the parts. Another risk is not finding the best suitable battery that match the project specification. Another risk is that facing some technical issues by making the project work by two methods, as we said, that automatic and by manual override. Also, another problem or risk that we cannot find all parts in the local market. Also, the weight of the project, maybe we assume that it is one of the risks. So another risk is from that the difficulty of movement. We assume that we cannot move it easily. Another risk is the adjustment of DC motor. If we use ready-made motor. Also, the final risk is the voltage that comes from the battery may not be enough to let the motor work as we assume. Here the literature review will be my teammate محمد.
Literature review. In this section, we'll review some past designs to get more that are related to our project idea to learn more about our project, and we'll discuss the issues. The first design is on smartphone control using body gestures. This design implements the smart home principle by using the human body gestures. It can control the lights and the curtain. There is 3 cameras attached to each curtain that capture the body gesture. And depending on those body gestures, the curtain will open and close. The problem in this design, it lacks automation and needs a human intervention. And also the curtain material does not reflect the heat and the microwave that comes from the sun. So let's go to the second design, a smart home system based on Zigbee and iOS software. This design uses the iOS software that is developed by Apple and the Zigbee, which is used to create a person network. Combining these two can help to create a smart home wireless control which can be controlled with any device using the iOS software. It can control the air condition and lights and curtain. The problem in this device also, like the previous, it lacks automation and needs a human intervention to operate, and the material of the curtain also does not reflect the heat and microwave. So let's go to the last design, solar powered Android-based speed control of DC motor via secure Bluetooth. This design uses the DC motor as its actuator and the Arduino as its controller. The Arduino is connected to any smartphone that using Bluetooth technology to get the command from it. And the Arduino will send a signal to the motor driver, which will modify it and will let the motor operate in the desired direction. The problem in this, there is one feature in this design which has a second wave power by solar energy. The problem with this design also, like the previous, lacks automation, is a human intervention. And that's it. Let's move to the next section, which is analyzing alternative solutions. In order to know the alternative design of our project, we must know the possible components that can be used in our project based on the function. There are 4 major electrical components of our project: the actuator, the power grid, circuit, and the sensor and the controller. Let's start with actuator. The purpose of the actuator is to move the curtain by opening it or closing it. As we can see from the slide, there are 4 possible actuators: the brush motor, and the brushless motor, and the stepper motor, and the servo motor. Let's talk about the power electronics circuit. The purpose of the power electronics circuit is to control the flowing electrical energy by supplying volts and currents to be best suitable to the loads. As you can see from the slide, there are 3 possible power electronic circuits for our project: the DC-DC converter, and the H-bridge, and the motor driver. Let's move to the sensors. The sensors can detect and sense any physical parameters like heat and pressure and light. Since we are dealing with the sun, so we need some kind of sensor that do that thing for us. As we can see on the slide, the photodiode sensor, the LDR sensor, and the infrared sensor. Let's go and talk about the control. The purpose of the control is to control the action of the project. There are 2 possible controls for our project: the microcontrol and the Arduino. As you can see, figure 1 shows the block diagram of the alternative number 1. In this, as you can see, the power supply will supply the power to all the project. In our case, it is a battery. The sunlight will be the input of the LDR sensor. The LDR sensor will give a signal to the big microcontroller, and the big microcontroller will give a signal to the H-bridge. The H-bridge will modify and understand this signal and will let the motor operate.
H-bridge هذه interface يعني؟ Yes. Interface high current, huh? Yes. Between the motor and the. وليش سميتوها كذا؟ ليه سموها H-bridge؟
Because it applies the H-bridge principle
driver.
for transistors.
Actually يعني conventional name H-bridge.
لما تعطي كارت لك اياها فول وورد يبقى تحكم فيها تشيل فيها.
It uses the IC that.
حسبت اسمه.
The edge bridge will understand and modify the signal and let the brush motor operate in the desired direction. As you can see, this is the pros and cons of the alternative number 1. The main problem that we have in this design is the picture control is a little difficult than Arduino to program. So let's go to the second alternative. This is the block diagram. It's function like the same, but we replace some parts, like we replace the PIC with the Arduino and the DC-DC converter with the boost converter and the brushless DC. As you can see, this is a table of pros and cons of the second alternative. The best thing in this alternative, the brushless DC motor have a higher efficiency than the brush motor, which means lower power consumption, which help us to achieve one of the most of the project. But there is some problem in this design. The brushless DC motor needs a specific driver to change its direction. So the boost converter will not do this job. So let's go to the third alternative. This is a block diagram. It's like the previous, but we replaced the LDR sensor with the photodiode, and the green with the PIC microcontroller, and the boost converter with the flyback converter, and we use the stepper motor. The main problem in this design, the stepper motor have low efficiency. So the stepper motor have a high power consumption, which does not help us to achieve one of the most of the project. Also, the stepper motor needs, like the brushless DC motor, an extra circuit to control the speed and direction of the motor. So let's go to the last and fourth alternative. In this, it's also like it works like the same, but in this alternative we use the LDR sensor and the Arduino on the brushless DC motor driver and the brushless DC motor. As we can see for now, this is the best alternative we have because the brushless DC motor have higher efficiency and the Arduino provides special software that are more easy than the microcontroller. And the decision will be Ibrahim.
So, as my teammate محمد said, that alternative 4 is best one because of the pros and cons of all of them. We have choosing the fourth alternative. The block diagram is shown here, as Muhammad said. After we digging more in details, we have make some changes to the design. The first one is that we have replaced the brushless DC motor with the brushed DC motor because the brushless DC motor it's more competitive, has complexity to implement than the brushed DC motor. Also, the brushless require more high cost, and the efficiency is between them is the same. But the brushless is more, but not that much we need for our project. The second change is the brushless DC motor driver. We change it with the bridge motor driver. Since we change the DC motor from the brushless with the brush, we have to change the driver also. Also, we have to add the push buttons to implement the manual override options to our project. Here we see the diagram of our project with the detail with the changes. Here the push buttons we have added that will connect to the Arduino in board. Also we have added the replace with this bridge and the brushed DC motor we have added to our project. Here now we'll talk about the project baseline design. In this section we'll talk about the block diagram of the functional block diagram of our project. Also the system descriptions. In this section we'll talk about the circuit components, flowcharts for the software codes, possible statistics, and the estimated cost. Then we will see some major results for our project. Here we can see this figure shows the functional block diagram of our project. We have decided to use a battery with 12 volt DC battery. Also, you can see that the push buttons, we have two push buttons. The first one here for opening the curtain, and here another one is for closing the curtain. And the one is the same, that we will get the output, which is the movement of the curtain. Here the major circuit components of our project. Here the battery we will use, or we may use. Another thing is the EDU sensor. Here the Arduino board, which is the controller of our project. Here is the H-bridge motor driver, and here the brushed DC motor. This figure shows the flow charts of the logic of our the project of our controller, microcontroller of our project. That shows just the logic of microcontroller. Here, as in a project, we should make it more professional and more useful for users. We have made some possible aesthetics. First one is we hope that the wires, controllers, motor, and motor driver should be hidden. Also, the battery should be hidden and easy to replace for the user. Push buttons should be marked so the user just read it and function easily with the project. Also, the curtain will open and close horizontally as the final shape of the curtain. Here, the status codes with my team and Khalid.
Okay, this is estimated cost for our baseline design. It is the table shows the main component for our project and its purpose and the quantity we need and the price. The price is shown here in dollar because we use online market as Amazon or eBay.com. And this is the main component in our project, which is a solar curtain to reduce the heat and reflect the sunlight. Battery and the LDR sensor as said, and Arduino on the board as a main controller, and L298N dual H-bridge motor drive and the brushed DC motor. Now the simulation result. For this part is not required for 10-1 students, but we have made it because we want to make sure about our project if it is work. Especially the motor driver, because it is the first time we use it, so we want to make a simulation to make sure. So the idea from this simulation is to know the operation principle to control the motor using the motor driver. As you see, this is a schematic for motor driver. In our case, we need only two pins as an input and two pins as our output. N1 and N2 pins depends on the input. If we give one logic for N1 and zero logic for N2, the output will rotate the motor right forward, and if we give it opposite zero for N1 and one logic for N2, the motor will rotate right, as you see in the table. Now this is kind of the circuit was built using the Proteus software. As you see here are two push buttons and the motor driver and the motor. In case if we press this button, which is will rotate the motor right, it's connected to 5 volt, which is will give us a 5 volt or one logic. So one logic here for N1 and zero logic here for N2. N2 is connected to ground, so it is 1, 0. So the motor will rotate right. In other case, when we press this button, which is will rotate the motor left, it will give us one logic or 5 volt in N2 and zero logic will be in N1, so the motor. And this video shows when we press the right button, the motor will rotate right. Then if we push this button, which will rotate the motor left. So now we know how the motor, bridge motor driver, how it's work.
دراجة تحمل كم كرنت يدفع؟
So the two to drive the motor. Now we will talk about the preliminary evaluation of baseline design. In this section, we'll talk about the technical aspect and cost analysis, environment impact of society and global impact. Technical aspect, which is satisfy the customer needs, which is the curtain is when working automatically by using a button to open and close it. The curtain fabric that has a reflective material that almost reduce the sun heat that comes from the sun. The battery used for this project, a curtain independently will close and open depends on the light intensity without the need of human intervention. Also, that will provide a more comfort and luxury life for the people who are there. This is more details about the cost analysis, which is a final analysis for the cost. It shows the more component here: a battery, wires, resistor, push buttons, a light sensor, Arduino, brushed DC motor driver, solar curtain fabric, and curtain track kit. So the total subtotally for this table it will be about $200. And also more cost about for shipping from USA because we requested from our online market. Fuel of car is this price. So food? No food during all the day we work on the project. And this is the total estimated cost, which is $271.
$20 مو ريال دولار يعني ما نجيب خمسة على شغلات إذا جاي شوائع.
We are engineering, so work hard. Now let's talk about the environmental impact. Curtain material. Some of type of material need to cutting the trees to fabricate some types of fabric material. So that's the global impact. And battery, which is constant of a lot of chemical and some toxic material that are harmful for the human. But the Arduino on board has a limited range to operate. Getting out of this range will damage the board. And also the motor drive may become a problem, which is overheat. Brushed DC motor, which is required very big maintenance as a brush that must be cleaned and replaced for continual operation. Now I'm back to society. No need for the human intervention for our project, so it will depend only on the light intensity that comes from sun and will provide flexibility in maintaining an average room temperature because we're using the reflective material fabric for the curtain and provide the luxury light. Global impact, so no need for human intervention to open and close the curtain may seem as a simple task, but it is completely different because that time we do it for useful thing, as in retirement homes or hospital. We save the care personal hours, so that will be useful. Also helpful for person with reduced mobility and bedridden people. This design of automatic curtain is very variable because we can install it in existing building or the new building. Now we come to conclusion and further work with the mathematical.
Okay, at the end of this presentation, we want to conclude our work. First, we have understood the background information of our project via the literature review and situation we have made before this semester. Also, we have put the project milestones via the project chapter. Also, we have choosing the baseline design, which is maybe we can make some changes in the second semester, or we go with it. And also, we have made some simulation, so we can know our project is working in real or not. And for further work, we will work to buy and assemble the project hash circuit, and we will test the power consumption of each component of our project, and then we will make inshallah the prototype in the second semester inshallah. Here is some references that we have used in our research. Finally, thank you for listening.
الله يعطيكم العافية. طيب في شباب في نقطتين ما ذكرتوها هاي اللي هو ايش كان التاسك تبع كل واحد فيكم مفصل موجودة في اتكلم عنها. قبل
بالنسبة لي كانت يعني اللي كان عليه انه مثلا لسه التايم كيبر في الاجتماعات وكذا. برضه انه عمل اجندات وكذا من ناحية التنظيم قسم الشغل في كل تيم ميتنج وكذا. مثلا خلنا اسايمنت معين ابدا اقسم فيه مثلا خارج كذا بطريقة معينة نحط وزن لكل تاسك وبعدين نوزعها على التساوي.
هذا بالنسبة للشغل
كعمل تكنيكال نفسه
تكنيكال فيه اشياء كثيرة اللي هي نحن فيه هنا توضح لنا.
خليك في الورقة بس كل كلام معانا.
لازم السيموليشن هو في شيء
يعني ايش كل واحد له تخصص معين في المشروع ده على حسب تخصصاتكم تطور وزي كذا ولا ما سويت كذا؟
تقريبا زي كذا. بالنسبه للتقارير يعني قسمناها على اساس التقارير والاسايمنتات وهذا الشغل.
ما فهمت الشغل هذا الحين في تصميم ديزاين صح؟
إيه.
في اجزاء مختلفه.
ايه بتعتمد على
واحد منهم باور والثاني كمبيوتر والثاني الكترونكس. ايش قسمت شيء ولا لسه الى الان ما سويت كذا؟
الا بالالكترونكس مثلا سيميليشن تعاملت معاه سويت هذه.
انت الكترونكس؟
ايه سويت السيميليشن هذا وسويت يعني هو الاهم شيء في اللي سويناه كشغل.
طبعا الجرس لسه عادي منه.
انا الاتش بريدج والبوليترونيك سيركت والرش لسه ما اخذتها.
ماشي.
بحث عنها.
وبالنسبه للدنيا من خارج داخل الجزء لانه في كود معين للمايكرو كنترول يعني جربنا سيموليشن للبيك وكذا بس ان شاء الله مثلا في المستقبل ممكن اخذ الجزء لانه مثلا اذا شفنا شيء ان كان هو البدايه بنشوف شيء انا اخذ شيء.
وانا سويت الكود قصده حق هذا وهو عدل عليه زي كذا وبرضه سوى الفرد شارت حق الكود.
في استخدمتوا اي نوع من انواع الستاندرز
الداتا شيتس في ايتش كومبوننت في داتا شيت
زي الموتور درايفر هذه عرفنا كيف تشغل الموتور كيف تلفها يمين كيف تلفها يسار.
طبعا بالنسبه للكهرباء والبلوكات والهذا
ايش؟ الستاندرز؟
ايوه يعني فيش نفس الراس زي هذه تبعت الهواء ولا
لا احنا بنستخدم
لا احنا بطاريه بالمواصلات حقنا.
والبطاريات برضه 1.5 فولت ولا 9 فولت.
12 فولت.
ايه اخذنا 12 فولت وكاباسيتي.
يعني انت كنت ذكرتوها بس
ذكرناها في نص الوقت يعني.
كستاندرد يعني.
كستاندرد البروجكت لازم يكون فولت بالبطاريه.
طيب. هذا مثلا محمد خير.
بس انتم ما سويتوا شيء حتى الان.
لا
يعني المفروض تقريبا نكون جاهزين يكون عندنا فكره عامه خلاص احنا بس باقيين نشتغل.
الحمد لله استخدمنا التكنيك هذا السيميليشن حاولنا نقرب المشروع انه مقبول ونقدر نسويه.
بس هو الاخرات 3 4 انتوا اخترتوه بعدين عدلتوا عليه.
عشان نشوف انه البروسيس
ليش انا خلاص اطلع باك واحطها تلتل فور يعني اللي فهمته الان تلتل فور
ايه تعدل
بعد ما اخترتوه وجدتوا انه في بعض الاوبستكل
ايه
فقلت عدل.
لا هم قالوا اذكر اي شيء بعد هذا الاسبوع. عرفت انا سميتها بالترتيب
عشان نشوف المراحل اللي
قصدي ما ضفت الثلاث الخامس
قلنا انه
هو
لا هو
احنا سوينا الاسايمنت حق الانترنت بعدين قالوا سووا اسايمنت حق التغييرات
عشان كذا
فهم خلونا نكتب عشان نشوف الشغل. الحمد لله
ايش استفدتوا؟
الحمد لله في اشياء كثير
والله اعتمدتوا
لا والله بالعكس استفدنا يعني دخلنا في ديتيلز شويه حق الموتور شويه مايكرو كنترول.
في شيء استفدت يعني لما بدات في المشروع الماده الفلانيه كانت اعتقادات من الماده الفلانيه.
المفادات كثير في اعتقد
ماده المايكرو كنترول جدا مهمه اكتشفتها.
لانه البيك وكذا وقدرت اني اسوي سيميليشن برضه للمشروع تقريبا لاستخدام البيك هذه كذا ككوميونيكيشن.
انا بثبت ان الكمبيوتر احسن شيء.
والله
في حياز
هو صراحه
ساعدني
صراحه اهم ماده يعني للان يعني مو انه اهم ماده الماده اللي تطبق يعني الحين في مشروع التخرج هي المايكرو كنترول. عشان اغلب المشاريع فيها في الكنترول.
الباور يعني مثلا اخذها في باور الان اختيار الباور او كارنت.
الكرنت والباور مهمه برضه بس يعني
ما كان في ذلك يعني.
مو هي ما كان من اهداف مشروعنا يعني.
لا ما كان مرتبط بماده معينه مثلا يعني
في ماده معينه الباور الكترونيك سيركت انا نقل شوي كونسبت ايش بالضبط.
طب شو بالنسبه للستاره حتخشوا في تروس ونقل موتر وزي كده ولا هي مركبه على الدراع مباشره الشارع؟
لا هو في الغالب
هذا الفكره بنشوفها في الترم الثاني كذا، احنا مبدئيا قالوا يسووا
يعني في شغل في الباور الميكانيكا الباور يعني
في
نحاول نستخدم تروس وكذا لازم يعني
كيف تنقل بسير ولا بسير نص سير هذا ما يتعطل ما يتعطل ينقطع
او تو موتورز مثلا
يعني عشان كذا جبنا الدول اتش بريدج عشان احتياط
ممكن
ممكن يحط موتور هنا موتور
واحد يقفل واحد هذا
ايوه
احنا
يسهل لنا لانه مو تسوي تروك ولا واحد
ستورك يصير على الثاني
عشان كذا جبنا دول اتش بريدج
لازم ساعات السنك يكون عالي وزي كذا هي شغل يعني
ايش ان شاء الله اصلا ان شاء الله قدها.
طيب ايش دخلتوا في الماتيريال يعني بيقول فابريك ايش دخلتوا في انتم كهرباء؟
كاستمر نيدز
عاكسة تكون الحرارة مو بس بالضوء
تمتص الحراره زي كذا.
طيب شكرا والله فيك ان شاء الله.
وقتكم اخذنا منكم.
هذه
اخذها دير محمد عمر الاسمر صح؟
طيب
يعني لكم اشياء ثانيه تسوونوها ولا
في هذا
لا خلاص وين مع الدكتور خلاص صححك
خلاص كذا الله يعطيك العافيه.